All right, so I've not been uploading many videos lately because basically I'm burnt out on the theory and principle of right wing values and morality and metaphysics and existence and so on. But it's not because I'm just burnt out. It's more like I think I kind of completed what I can think of at the moment. So I'm like done what I set out to do to some extent, and I'm just adding little things I think of extra here and there, but I don't have a major drive to push videos anymore at the moment. However, in a little while, I might get a new computer apparently, and then I'll move to a project I have where it's like we'll do news and culture and stuff like that in a presentation format similar to Stamford Bridge with Arch and Sargon, and then we'll do a gaming stream after, shooting the shit, chit chatting, banter, follow up, wrap up questions, stuff like that. More light-hearted, but an open-ended, but just to like expand lightly on what we presented the previous day or something. So that's my project that I have in mind going forwards. Um, However, I thought I did have a brainstorm kind of moment, a big brain time kind of moment recently on Twitter. And I thought I would read out my tweets, which you can find on my Twitter, but they form a coherent argument at least. And basically, what I've learned is the blood and soil arguments, minus the genocidal socialism thing, so you just deport the invaders, you don't genocide them, um, is I made the argument for a web of concentric expanded relations. In other words, you're related to someone that's related to someone that's related to someone that's related to another person. And maybe you cut it off at the third or fourth or fifth degree of relation on average for what a nation or a country is, right? In general, as a general rule. I left it a bit fuzzy because I didn't have a proper cutoff point, but it would be something roughly like that. Now I made that 4 months ago, and now the modern right zeitgeist with the popular influencers is saying blood is the nation. Your family is the nation. And about 10 months ago, I predate the current zeitgeist of the right wing, talking about the need to punish the wicked, or Asmongold or Leaflet Nassari's remove the 2% or get rid of the 2% for the crazies and the junkies and the violent schizophrenics that stab people to death and so on. You know, the miscreants or the bandits or the brigands. You know, the thugs. You know, and the world would be a paradise if we did that. Um, Now, I've actually been in advance of the modern right zeitgeist in regards to publicizing Muhammad raped 9-year-old Aisha, and Islam is copying in his footsteps constantly. I I also was ahead of the curve in calling for the death penalty for child rapists and stuff like that. For the zeitgeist of it, that is. Other people obviously were calling it before me even, but in regards to myself, I'm consistently ahead of the curve to some extent. And I give credit to my metaphysics and my videos that aren't just jokes videos, like making jokes on video, or gaming, explicitly gaming material videos. As me working out a coherent worldview from a crash out from psychotic break 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and midlife crisis, and 4 to 5 years recovery, and then within a year or 11 months, my YouTube video here has basically formatted a coherent worldview that is strong, even if I can't trust my exact relation to reality day to day. It's the stuff that works regardless of whether my brain works properly. Basically, it's the stuff that's solid in experience and relationships or existence, even when I can't trust my brain fully. Basically, it's the stuff that passed the filter of schizophrenia as consistent and coherent. So it's what works even when your brain doesn't, basically. And even when civilization doesn't work, to some extent. It's about making civilization work properly, in some ways. Because I have a history, a pedigree of from 8 years old to 17 years old, learning all sorts of mythologies, and stories and history, and being a very autistic but gifted child with access to a university professor and a very technically gifted, technical mastermind of, or not mastermind exactly, but person with a lot of technical skills as a father, and a university professor adoptive grandfather. And my mom's not that dumb either. She's got some very skilled music, art, and craftsmanship skills. So basically, as their offspring and being raised by these people, I've got a well-rounded, solid education that most people don't necessarily have as much of when it comes to the civilizational topics in some sense. That's not a brag about my inherent IQ, although it is pretty high. Apparently, it's like 130 to 140 IQ, possibly. I know I tested at like 135 at most. So 140 is just 5 more points than that. When I was basically 3 months off drugs after drugging myself literally stupid for 10 years, I did an authentic IQ test, and I tested at the top 98th percentile, so only 2% higher than me. 2% of people are higher than me, so top 1 out of 50. In intelligence after merely 3 months off drugs that made me stupid. So I might have been even smarter before I took the drugs. So this isn't exactly, I realize this might rub people the wrong way and saying, oh, I'm so great. But, like, I'm using this for a technical, like, this is what I found as a sort of mad, not quite genius, but getting kind of up there. A little crazy, but kind of got a little spark of ingenuity as well. So I'm just going to read my posts, and then I'll let you figure out what I'm talking about. But this is like the explanation of the posts and so on. Sorry if it's long and rambling. Okay. So with that background, here's the first post. I'm done with the metaphysics, culture slash religion, and politics slash ideology. Metaphysics and biology are hardware. Culture and religion are firmware. And politics ideology is software as a theory and principles thing. I'm done with those developments for now. I might make a video on that, which I'm doing now, but I'm done with developing my worldview coherently at the core at the moment. When I get a romantic partner, I will do man-woman relations, because I'll know what I'm talking about, because I'll have experienced it basically more than 4 months in my entire 40-year life. The next step is to popularize my work and explain daily slash personal slash situations slash relations in a helpful manner that's worked for me when things have worked out. Hence, my new project, when a new computer arrives, will be to do reactionary living or right wing living in modernity in relation to news culture. The full spread will be science, faith, philosophy, culture, art, media, politics, history, with personal angles and a few tangents on personal life, inspiring, creative, cultivating things. So, inspiring or creative or cultivating things that excite me and my co-hosts personally, right? As a little sort of little thing, like gardening, music, or like gaming, or something like that kind of thing. And explain how they pertain to one with right-wing values that has some IQ, like me and my friend. So I'm not saying other people are necessarily stupid, but what I'm saying is my friend and I are. My friend tested about 125, 130 IQ technically, historically, and I tested at like 130, 135, 140 basically. So it's like we have like a proper like intelligence level credentials for why we have what we have in some sense. We're not like 70 IQ basically. We're slightly above IQ and we're reasonably above average IQ. So it's like if we've thought about it properly, you can probably trust us to be on the money as long as we're not purposefully lying in essence. And I doubt we're going to be purposefully lying or misleading people. The goal is to get a small but dedicated following and let our influence spread from there. The goal is to get at the least amount of people watching us for maximum social engagement with regulars. That still pays career level bills for us both, so we can both have a family basically. Reasonably, so a little bit of spare money and savings and stuff like that, and impacts the broader right-wing zeitgeist. To a major extent, I'll let my established body of work on YouTube speak for itself. I want it to become foundational to the right wing at large, and the left to have an understanding of where the right's coming from through my work. While I am a right-wing patriot now, liberal reactionary minus neoliberalism, basically, sort of similar to the podcast Lotus Eaters, where they interviewed the libertarian nationalist, or Sargon's English traditionalism, basically. That's my version of what those other two were. I've also got left-wing friends, like one's actually calling himself a communist, but he's not exactly typical communist. He's got some Second Amendment flavor to him and like personal responsibility that he enjoys doing and stuff like that. And also an anarchist that's more about growing and cultivating food for people and teaching people how to farm properly without pesticides so much. He's been around the world. And the communist friend was living in like Sarajevo in the Balkans when those conflicts with the breakup of Yugoslavia were going on. So he's got some war experience in some sense. And I've also got a left-wing history. Nothing of my YouTube channel other than explicitly gaming things, or the jokes videos, is unrelated to what got me ahead of the curve currently. It's all part and parcel. And it's putting together a coherent worldview from fractured self, shattered identity of what's solid even when schizophrenic. The playlist in question that one might want to look up if they're thinking about right-wing things is 1337 Realpolitik Conservative Morality. That's the playlist. Existential Crisis Guide and Toolkit. That's another playlist. Natural Order Theory. That's another playlist. And then a really small playlist, Simple Logic Explains Left/Gov 'T, so gov, short for government, grifts. And then the numbered videos. Video 1, Abstracting Tribes, is probably the one that is most connected to the other playlists in some sense. But I came up with it along with 17 other videos when I was offline for a week or two. And recorded them all and stuff like that, and then numbered them. So they're not necessarily part of any of the others entirely, but I came up with them all at once over a week, and just posted them as a separate thing, basically. They probably match a little bit here and there. Ahead of the curve of modern right by 4 to 10 months, at least currently, in regards to the zeitgeist of the right. Note the metaphysics and Christian videos are an extension of what got me ahead of the modern right's current advanced influencer waves, politically, culturally, and socially. Take my video, for instance, We Need Violent Christians. And then I changed tack with a different topic slightly, which is God, culture, religion, tradition, history all matter, and you can't do well if you lack any of these for the right wing. Somewhat, because all are malleable on their own. You need to integrate them all to be the foundation properly of a new order, same as the old order that gave us our rise, or you fall. I don't think that atheist right-wingers understand that without God as a linchpin, their hunches don't have logical backing and are sort of purely result of natural character. To enforce and expand their views, they need the God thing to be intact. Character and values need God as a capstone. So if you have an arch that can hold the wall or be a gate or something like that, you need two pillars, character and values, let's say. And then God is like the thing that turns it into a proper arch where you can put a gateway and build the wall up above and so on. So you have a door frame and you have like the two pillars, and then you have the thing that connects them at the top in the middle and keeps the wall from falling into the doorway. That's kind of what I'm talking about by capstone. It's basically the top of the door frame or archway for historical things that didn't have drywall or wood or something like that, or concrete, where you can control exactly what it is. So it's like the rebar in the concrete that keeps a multi-tower, like a skyscraper, from collapsing in some sense. Without God as the linchpin capstone, even culture can be taken to mean something completely different than the historical norms, rather slyly, or by being sly. Expect another post-World War II consensus unless God comes back into the play, and rather quickly after the right-wing activity dies down due to the wind that they're going to get soon. You will note the 5 previous things I mentioned, aside from leaving out neighborhood/community, which are neutral coded, are all anti-left, right-wing coded and are in our favor completely in the West if you take it to mean Christian God. When authentic, their supremacy wins for us. So we don't effort the thing and then we win. We popularize these things and then they win for us. Because even the left will turn more right-wing or more to the right again if it popularizes amongst them. And then they fight us less hard. We don't have to fight them as hard, and we're more in charge, and more of our we get more people actually on our side because these things are inherently right-wing. So again, the things are God, culture, religion, tradition, history. Right? It's all there. And neighborhood community in some sense. The reason they win for us is because they're integrating factors that lead to fuller lives. We don't need to argue. Everyone who experiences it just feels better in almost every way, and they make better moral decisions at that point and have greater courage to do the right thing, even when it costs them, and feel more belonging to their society. So they antagonize against it and are less subversive, not so subversive, I should say. And they cultivate personal virtue more often, which leads to a higher trust society being possible and reasonable. Now, to the extent one actually allows immigrants to exist, you want them on board with God, culture, tradition, religion, and history of ours. You want them to join our story, not pollute it with theirs. So, and basically, to the extent you even allow immigrants to exist in your country. That's for the ones the foreigners that are actually allowed to stay. That's what the minimum they have to partake in, basically. Has to be coherent, integrated, full-fledged, full-spectrum integration on God, culture, tradition, religion, and history. Otherwise, you have to get rid of the immigrants. That's what it comes down to, basically. You can't let yourself be polluted by the foreigners. They have to come into your domain and follow your rules for life and actually try to be more like you in some fashion properly and get rid of the whole, like, I was born here, but I am, like, Hindu and I get to rule over the Christians. That's not allowed. Because they see India as their homeland properly, not us. Because their entire essence of being on all 5 pillars are foreign in some fashion. So just being born in a geographical location due to race and culture and familial religion and so on doesn't allow you to be actually from the place you were born from necessarily. In some sense, because you're cut off from the actual existence that is native and essence based of the homeland, essentially. Or the host country, I should say. Your homeland is a different country, not the host country that you were born in some fashion. So yeah. However, if you do engage in the 5 pillars, you are much more likely to be properly integrated and so on. We just need to start really pushing for these things in some sense. And then the people that we do allow to stay will be much more likely to actually be part of our story in some sense, and not us part of their story of conquest of us. And the people that successfully do this will actually actually be tolerable in our society, even if they don't have the same skin color to some extent. Even though we do want minimum different people from other ethnicities and nations and countries and backgrounds and so on. Yeah. So we want to minimize the people we have to integrate, and we want to integrate the people that we can't kick out. And we should be able to kick out a lot of people who were born somewhere else and came here. And even some large degree of people who were born here but hold their nationality and ethnicity and culture and religion and ties to other countries as their true homeland and so on. So no more of this whole, like, two-faced Ilhan Omar sort of like, I'm a proud Somalian, I'm a proud immigrant, and then saying I'm a proud American to get political power. Can't have your cake and eat it too. You got to choose one or the other. Basically. And if you choose wrong, you get out of our country. And we should be on the lookout for fakers and two-faced people. Just as a natural thing. As good hygiene for our country and nation, basically. Good social hygiene, basically. Yeah. You will note that I have not put race at the beginning of it, but I already made my video called 1, like the number, and then abstracting tribes for the racial identity video and so on. So that's 4 years. That's 4 months ahead of Sargon's blood and soil arguments and so on. But yeah, that's this is more for the civic part of things, basically. The second half of this video. The first half is more some humble bragging, I guess, in some ways, and like why I haven't uploaded videos and what my direction is going to be in the future and why I'm going to do it that way. So if you're looking for more videos, I guess this is technically one of them, but sorry if I haven't developed some far-reaching theory that is edifying. I'm kind of run out of ideas for that somewhat. I guess I got a boom-bust cycle of productivity in some sense. I am an INTP/turbulent in essence, and that is a very boom and bust for ideas kind of grouping. Oh, I should mention one more thing. I've mentioned it before, but I'll mention it again. The other reason for why I'm going to do my new project with my friend/co-host is because since I don't have a girlfriend or family, like children or anything, one of the things I did was I developed my INTP, then my ENTJ shadow, then my ISFP subconscious, and my ESFJ unconscious, or I don't know how to put it, but there's basically four stages of an INTP. First is INTP only, second is ENTJ as well, third is ISFP, and fourth is ESFJ. Now that's basically the theoretician or architect of ideas, or known as the logician. And then ENTJ is essentially a crusade leader in some sense. Like they treat leadership like a crusade, and they're ideologically like they acquire ideologically aligned individuals, or like character aligned individuals rather well, and lead them strongly. And then the ISFP part is more of a personal values and beauty and art and sort of being true to themselves, kind of like enjoying beauty and being more aesthetically pleasing and so on, kind of thing. And then the ESFJ is essentially the caretaker of people who are less able, kind of Myers-Briggs personality. And there's a model of psychology that suggests that everyone who starts off as one of the 16 Myers-Briggs type indicator or MBTI types develops 3 more as they go. And essentially what happened was I developed all 4 of them to some extent when I was 30. Then I had a schizophrenic breakdown and midlife crisis and homelessness and all sorts of chaos. And then I've slowly been recovering from the baseline INTP after shattering my entire self and developing these other things. And physically speaking, my computer is so bad it can't run video games that I can play with friends. So the ISFP and ESFJ are starving. And it's hidden into my ENTJ ability a little bit. My leadership ability, crusade leader ability, because I'm starved of personal value and beauty and aesthetics and enjoyment. And the social part of me is starving as well, where I'm not able to caretake very often very well. And even if it's just video games, where I'm like a better player at video games than my friend, or I'm just playing like support and being the glue that holds a party together where everyone else picked exactly what they want to play, like just do the thing the character or class is for. Whereas I pick based on what keeps the group together the best after everyone else picks their character. Yeah, and that's like going to satisfy the ESFJ part basically. Because I'm a man of sort of a few talents. I'm not quite a jack of all trades entirely, but I'm not a master of one either. I'm like a reasonably qualified at many, but not perfect at many. Kind of character in video games, basically. And that means like not like the class is multitasking or multi-role necessarily, but like I am. So I pick my class based on what helps the group thrive after everyone else picks their classes. And I'm usually some sort of leader in small casual groups in some sense. Because I'm INTP, which is the logician or theoretician or ideas guy who can see multiple angles and contingencies and follow through on plans to some extent, a little far-reaching thinking, and a little bit of awareness of potential blind spots. And then the ENTJ leadership in me is weaker. But when you have a group of people who are committed to the cause in some sense, or just the video game playing session, then I can inspiringly lead people to some extent better than someone who's like not got ENTJ in any of their 4-stack whatsoever. And the ESFJ allows me to care for people so that my colder side isn't necessarily in play necessarily, or I'm like I'll give an example of how this works. Essentially, my INTP comes up with a battle strategy. I give the callouts for warnings of what not to do or things that could go wrong. And then my ENTJ leads with like in the moment analysis and commands. And then my ISFP enjoys watching the teamwork under my command. And then my ESFJ is what I do when someone's feeling a little blue because maybe I was too cold or too harsh, or like preventing it from being that way in the first place, or like making it up to them as time goes on, so that they don't feel totally out of playing the games with me, in essence. Yeah. So it's like the upkeep to the social dimension, basically, the ESFJ. And that's what I'm missing in the ISFP because my computer is so old I can only play 15, 20-year-old games. So I can barely play Left 4 Dead 2, which is not a very fun game to me because it doesn't have any RPG mechanics. It's too FPS sweaty tryhard for me, in a way. Or, like, it's too, like... Yeah, it's kind of like that, basically, you know. It's like, it's really simple, but it's really sweaty tryhard, I find. And it doesn't speak to me the way Left 4 Dead, Vermintide 2 or Darktide speak to me in some sense. You know, and then there's like World of Warcraft we could play together or something, or Pantheon Rise of the Fallen instead. Or we could play like Guild Wars. I can't remember what the game is called anymore. Guild Wars itself actually stopped being a thing, but Guild Wars something else. Not Guild Wars 2, but Guild Wars like redone or something, like some sort of remaster is being sold and playable. So the original one is out of play, but the new version of the same old game is in play. Sort of like Overwatch and Overwatch 2 that turned back to Overwatch in a way, but it is like a 20-year-old game or 25-year-old game. So like I don't mind them remastering that one. Guild Wars, that is. And it's like the full package of Guild Wars faction, Guild Wars Factions and Guild Wars Nightfall. So it's like reasonably priced for what you get. And I want to play that game again with friends. Its endgame is PvP, not PvE necessarily, but like honestly, I haven't even played the PvE version much, so it'll be fresh to me in a way, and I'll be like, I have more gaming experience and leadership and like gameplay mechanics and like so on. So like, it'll be good if we play it together. It'll be one of, even if we don't play it to PvP wise, it'll be something to play through to top level, the highest level, and then we can move on to Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen, or something. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I'm rambling now, but you get the point. And that's the plan basically. To play MMORPGs and co-op shooters and strategy games where you can be co-op or cooperative, complex or computer CRPGs, that is. For the stories and stuff, basically cooperative gameplay. Or my friend will read super chats while I play and talk to me while I play, and I'll talk to him while I play and respond to super chats. Sort of like Razorfist and Terran or like we'll both play and we'll both respond to super chats, or I'll like be the primary reader of super chats or something because I can multitask better than him. Yeah. So yeah, this is yeah, I guess this is going to be my project and why I'm doing it. Basically, that's going to be the title of the video. My next project and why I'm doing it. I guess this is what the video is about more, with a little bit of theory and principle on the side and some humble bragging and so on. Advertising to my previous videos, compilations and so on. Yeah.